and this is April the 23rd, 1985, and I'm interviewing Darrell L. Jolly for the Wabash Carnegie Public Library Oral History Program, and we're doing it at the Wabash Carnegie Public Library. Now, Darrell, why don't you pull your chair up a little bit closer, and you and I will talk about Vietnam and so forth. And let's first of all get into your background. Why don't you tell me about where you were born, when you were born, who your parents were, and what's their background and so forth. And we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I was born here in Wabash, Indiana. My father, George Jolly, was born down at Battleground, Indiana, I think it's called. My mother's from Madison, Indiana. And after World War II, Dad married mother from meeting her down at Madison and brought her back to Wabash, and they've lived here all their lives. And consequently, so have I. I was born on November the 17th, 1946.
What was your mother's maiden name?
Marjorie Jenkins.
Jenkins, okay. Your grandparents on both sides of the family were living when you were a little child?
Oh, yes. Great-grandparents on both sides of the family were still living.
But subsequently have died. And
oh, yes. My great-grandmother on mom's side lived to be 100 years old. My great-grandmother on dad's side lived to be 96.
So I might add that you have a long life ahead of you. Hopefully.
I hope so.
Okay, now let's talk first of all about your background. You told me when you were born. Now tell me what transpired. You were born here in Wabash, and what happened?
Yeah, I lived on the north side of town 1 year of my life, and then I moved to the south side, which I still live in the same residence. Went to the south side, the old south side school, where the fire station's at now. Then went to the junior high that's directly across the street here. It used to be the old Wabash High. And then went to Wabash High out on Miami Street, where it's located at now. I graduated from there.
What year?
1965.
65. And then what happened when you graduated?
Yeah, I worked for Dad. Dad had a business, Jolly's Kitten Center, down on Wabash Street. And I worked there about a year after graduation, and I got a nice little notice from Uncle Sam sending me greetings.
Okay.
And what transpired was going into the Army. I was drafted, not like a lot of my friends, which joined. And it didn't take us very long to find out that we were definitely on our way to Vietnam within a matter of a month after we were drafted. I left here with Dave McCombs from Wabash, Walter Long from Wabash, Steve Spacey from Manchester. There was a group of other ones, but primarily we stayed together almost all the way through the service for at least the first year, almost year and a half. Yeah.
Training?
Left here, went to Indianapolis for our orientation. From Indianapolis, we went down to Fort Knox, Kentucky. And we spent what they called 0 week down there. We left Fort Knox and went to Fort Riley, Kansas. And Fort Riley went through basic training, which was, and we were informed, like the second day we were there, that then we were put in the 9th Infantry Division, and the 9th Infantry Division was reactivated from World War II. They were disactivated after World War II, and they reactivated us, the 9th Infantry Division, at Fort Riley, Kansas, and we took our training there. After basic, we got 2 weeks leave, came home, then we went right back out for advanced combat training. We skipped all other training that usually the Army threw others through, because we were leaving for Vietnam within 6 months. And we did our training there. And let's see, I don't remember exactly what the date was, but we got to leave right before Christmas. Well, I spent Christmas in Vietnam in 1966. and we consequently, as like I said, a division movement, we did go over by boat, which I was lucky. I left Fort Riley on a troop train, and on the troop train, I got a Pullman car, which was very, very nice because the rest of the guys had to sleep in seats where we had beds. And another guy, Lloyd Ross from Detroit, Michigan, and I were put together, and I don't know how we ever pulled this off, but we rode all the way a 3-day trip to Oakland, California, from Fort Riley. In Oakland, we got on the General William S. Weagle. It was a merchant marine ship, and we spent, supposedly we were supposed to be on that 17 days, but we ended up spending 21 days because we hit rough sea. And also at that time, I don't remember her name, but she predicted President Kennedy's assassination, but she predicted the first ship of 9th Infantry Division would sink going to Vietnam, and we were, so there was a lot of guys that panicked in this rough sea. We did land in Oakland after so many days on board, and I don't remember how many, for a 24-hour layover before leaving, going on to Vietnam.
You mean Okinawa?
Okinawa, yeah. We left Oakland. And
what was life aboard a troop ship on the way to the Pacific?
well, it's
All men?
oh, definitely, yeah. It's all, there's 3,200 of us on that ship, and I think at least 3,000 got sick. There was a lot of guys got sick on that. Luckily, I didn't, and I think the only reason why I didn't is because I had KP the first day out, and so I was around the food and stuff. We also had a lieutenant that told us to eat and try to keep our mind off our stomachs and try to get something in it all the time, which did help too. But this friend of mine, Lloyd Ross from Detroit, I thought he was going to die going over. He was deathly ill. We were stacked in bunks. Well, I only had 3 guys on top of me, but there was up to 6 guys on top of each other in the bunks, and I believe the ship was 4 decks deep. And I don't particularly want to go back out on the ocean. I found out that is a large body of water that when you don't go for days and days and days and don't see anything at all, and when you see a ship, it looks like a minnow or something across the way. It's unbelievable.
What did you do on the 24 hours in Okinawa? Did they allow you off the ship?
We were allowed to go off the ship for it was maybe 8 hours or something. Most of us visited local. Well, they kept us in a confined area that was strictly for enlisted men, and most of us just hit the bars or in the shops. Of course, we didn't buy too much because we didn't want to carry too much in Nam with us, and most of us didn't carry too much money because we didn't figure we were going to need much money.
Back on the ship, and then where?
Back on the ship, and then to Vietnam.
Where did you land?
I can't remember.
Wasn't
I think
Da
it
Nang?
was Vung Tau.
Vung Tau?
I think it was Vung Tau. And we did have General Westmoreland standing on the beach saluting us, and we expected a beach landing. They had landing craft come out and pick us up off the ship, and we did expect something like out of World War II, landing on the beachhead and ready to go into battle. And here was Westmoreland standing there in his Jeep saluting us. We couldn't believe. We didn't expect anything like that. We expected to go right into combat, right when we left the ship.
Where were you in relation to Saigon?
Oh,
Far or close?
it wasn't too far away. Like I said, Christmas was coming up, and I'll never forget the Australian troops. They had troops guarding us all the way down the road, since there were so many men coming in at once. And the Australian troops all had to wish us a Merry Christmas, which didn't make us feel real good, but got a kick out of it after a while, thinking about it.
Yeah. What, did you move into a staging area?
We moved into what 9th Infantry Division, it was called Bearcat. Now, this is there is a place in Vietnam called Bencat, and these two are not related. Bearcat was an American named base where they took the jungle and completely wiped it out down to like a desert area, and we moved into it and spent a few days there before we went out on perimeter guard around the area. We were there for, I don't remember how long. And 9th Infantry Division basically was supposed to go to the south of Vietnam into the Mekong Delta. That was our primary mission because there was no troops really in the Mekong Delta. Most of the troops were all north where the Marines and the other Army divisions were located. So basically the 9th Infantry Division moved into the Mekong Delta, and we were basically the only ones that did patrol and uphold whatever we were supposed to be doing in the Mekong Delta.
What was your MOS and what was your company and your specialty, and what were you, after being trained, what did you do in Vietnam?
Well, I was trained 11 Bravo, which is infantry. I presume I lucked out. I was put in recon of our battalion. I was in the 2nd or the 60th 9th Infantry Division, and I was in Echo Company, which was recon. And we worked like 25 to 32 men worked like a line company, just like the A, B, and C company did. We worked in a small scale. We were also the battalion commander's pets, which we got a lot more things went our way than they did for the line companies because they were so large.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't work like recon from World War II, where they went out in front of the line companies. We went primarily worked just like the line company. And the MOS for a recon was 11 Foxtrot, and they never would award us that, and we never could understand why. I guess it's because it was just a smaller, well, probably because we didn't work like they did in World War II in the recon.
What kind of armament were you carrying personally?
Well, I carried the M16, which I thought a great deal about. We were trained with the M14 first, and it was heavy. The magazines carried the ammunition was heavy to me. Of course, at that time, I only weighed probably about 110 pounds, something like that. And then we got the M16. It was very light and very accurate weapon from what I used it. The trouble that the Marines had with it, and to this day I believe this, or I talk to my friends and they don't agree with me, but I clean my weapon constantly, and I don't believe that they did because I never had that much problem with mine the whole time we were there.
What was your initial reaction in being in Vietnam as far as the climate, the terrain, the people, and the fact that you were there? What was your...
Well, and the bunch of us from the class of 65, class of 64, all of us were really patriotic, and being from Wabash, our fathers from World War II, and it was just a thing that happened. I mean, you got drafted. We expected to get drafted or enlist. We expected to be, and at that time it was Vietnam. I thought my father fought in World War II. I'm just serving my country. And you'll find that about 90% of the guys from Wabash, I believe, at least my friends, agree with me 100% on that. It was the thing that you did. There wasn't any of this. And when we left here, we didn't know of any of this dissension and things going on here in this country until after we got over there. Of course, Wabash is a little behind times on a lot of what goes on the East and West Coast, which we found out after we got in, because New Yorkers thought there was only one place on earth, and that's New York, and people from California only thought there was one place on earth, and that's California. But the country, Dad told me before I left, he said, try to look at the country and look at the beauty of the country and not what's going on around you, which I was very fortunate and I did. And it was a beautiful country. as far as a landscape and the sunsets, they had some beautiful sunsets and things. Most part, the South Vietnamese people were great and were all for us and tickled to death that we were there and went out of their way most of the time to help us out. Of course, they were also picking up a few bucks off of us too, which they were definitely 100% for. I became friends with a few of them. Got to talk to them. My youngest brother, Kevin, was in Mr. Baldwin's class. I believe he was in 7th or 8th grade at the time. And so they sent me over a list of things that they wanted me to ask one of the Vietnamese soldiers. And after we were there for a while, went to the, I can't remember the name of the hill, but Ho Chi Minh had his hunting lodge on this hill at one time, up in the highlands. We went up to protect the signal Corps battalion up there, and they had South Vietnamese attached to us. And I got to know one of them. His name was Luck. I remember, and I asked him questions, and he spoke very, very good English. And he came up with some pretty astonishing things. I don't recall what he said. I've got the list at home because we kept it through the years, but he was a real nice individual. And one of the South Vietnamese soldiers that I really got to appreciate. A lot of them we didn't particularly care that much for because you didn't know what they were going to do. They were acey-deucey. They could switch on you. You could be in a firefight and you could turn right around and start. If they thought the Viet Cong were taking advantage, then they'd switch sides all of a sudden. And our lieutenant decided that we did not do any more maneuvers after one time that this happened to us. He just told them from then on out we didn't work for the South Vietnamese soldiers.
What was the weather like? Was that an impression or not?
When I first got over there, it was hot, and I didn't sweat like a lot of people did. And actually, the glands in my skin actually bubbled from the heat because the perspiration wouldn't leak out. They had to feed me a bunch of salt tablets and stuff, and I did finally get accustomed to it. Really, 2 summers ago in Wabash, Indiana, as far as I'm concerned, was a lot hotter, but it's because we had the humidity here, and over there they didn't have the humidity, with the exception when I came down with dysentery. And I didn't think there was any place on Earth or any other place that was any hotter because there wasn't any breezes, and if you weren't running to the restroom, you were just laying there wishing you could die. But weather-wise, your body came accustomed to it, and most of the time it wasn't too bad. I was in the Mekong Delta for 7 months before I was hit, and I went to Saigon, and it was a whole different ballgame from there.
What did you do down in the 9th Infantry now? What are you doing down at the Mekong Delta?
Well, we primarily, and like I said, I was in reconnaissance, and we went out on ambush patrols at night. Basically, was our main goal, and that's where we just go out before sunset, or right as the sun went down, and set up along the rice paddies or something, and hope that the Viet Cong would walk into us, and we'd just open up fire and do what we had to.
Was that a successful program, or?
We only made contact a couple of times, and the second time we made contact, of course, I was wounded, but a couple of other times it was small groups of men that you fired on, you never knew one way or the other. Dad also told me before I left the service never to volunteer for anything, but after I got numb, I found out that you could volunteer for KP, and a lot of guys didn't like it, and that kept you out there in the boonies.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind going KP instead of getting shot at, although we didn't get it that much. Because like I said, recon was put out, and we had to the cooks and things from base camp that took care of the base camp. When we came back in, we were relieved mostly of all duties where we was kind of relaxed because they knew that we put in so many days out in the field.
But you weren't working out of a fire base or anything?
No.
Different operational?
Yeah. And we did go out on what they called Eagle flights, and that's where they bring in helicopters. We'd load up on those, and we'd go out and we'd unload in an area, sweep through it. And if you didn't make contact, the helicopters picked you back up. You go back out again, sweep through another area until you did make contact.
You'd hit more than one area in one day?
Yeah. We'd be 3, 4, 5 different areas in one day. Until you made contact. You just kept doing it. You bounced around. You swept an area for maybe half an hour, an hour. You jump back on choppers and take off again until you eventually did make contact.
So this was basically your first 6 months there until you got wounded?
Yeah. First 7 months it was primarily this thing. When we were up in by Bearcat, we did go to Long Bend again. We went out on a LST, this big Navy ship. And we loved that, dude, because I couldn't believe they always had pots of Kool-Aid or iced tea or something with ice in it. We always had cold drinks. There's always the mess hall or the kitchen or whatever the Navy calls it was open 24 hours a day, so you could always have something to eat. And we just couldn't believe how these guys on these ships lived where compared to us being out in the boondocks. We went through training where we jumped in the mud, and I remember jumping off of a hill and jumping in the mud where I fell to my armpits, and the guys had to pull me out to keep us moving. But that was primarily the training for the Mekong Delta.
How about the villages and so forth? Did you run across any of those on those
Oh,
sweeps?
yeah. We were in all kinds of villages, and a lot of times we'd set up in the village at night and guard the village, or just you felt a little more safer in there because you didn't think the Viet Cong would come in and hurt any of their people. More so when we were on these long sweeps.
Well, tell me about the day that you were hit.
Well, it was June the 2nd,
Year?
1967, was when I was hit. June the 1st, that year, of course, being in Vietnam, we were 13 hours, I believe it was approximately 13 hours behind what we are here in Wabash. And that year, the Indianapolis 500 was postponed for rain. I don't remember, it was 1 or 2 days, but it was postponed for. And before going out on ambush patrol that night, Armed Forces Radio and Television broadcast the Indianapolis 500. So I sit that afternoon, a bunch of us sit in our hooch, or like a little barracks, and listen to the 500. And about approximately 7, 8 o'clock that night, we moved up on some trucks. They took us out so far into down the road, and we got off of the trucks, and then we walked into the rice paddies and set up for the evening for an ambush patrol. Also, if I can remember right, C Company was behind us. And I think D Company was over to our right or left. We set up that night for the ambush patrol. We carried what we call the starlight scope, and turned it on at night, and you could just about see anything that went on. It was similar to the I don't know what they call them.
Infrared.
Yeah, infrared. That used a red light. These used a green light.
Correct.
Is a starlight, which picked up off the stars, and you could see anything that's moving out. And we set up. We were sitting there, and I was with Sergeant Rodriguez. He was a Mexican American, And I don't remember who else was in our position. Usually try to keep 3 guys in the position, be maybe 20 foot apart from each other or so. You try to keep 3 guys because you slept 3 hours. 1 guy slept 3 hours, and 2 guys stayed awake, and you rotated it till the evening was over, or till the night was over. And it was exactly 2 o'clock in the morning. We spotted 7 Viet Cong dressed in their black pajamas coming towards us. And we put the word out to the rest of the 25 of us, I believe it was that night. And we opened fire on them, and then all hell broke loose. Both sides opened up on us. I was hit in the arm, and luckily it was a ricochet. Angie was in position down from me. He got hit through the kneecap and tried to crawl over the dike on the other side, and he caught another bullet through almost the same area. Montoya was hit through the arm. Marsh was just down the next position from me, and he caught a bullet through the forehead. We seemed like an eternity we fought them. We found out later we had a battalion instead of just 7 men. It was like I don't remember what the count is on the battalion, but we even pinned down C Company and B Company to fire. We were almost out of ammunition before it was all over with. And after it was over with, of course, then we couldn't make contact with our base camp. We never did figure out why, unless somebody was asleep on the horn. But a medevac unit down the way happened to pick us up, and they did send choppers in for me and the other guys that were wounded.
This was at night?
Yes,
They sent them in
2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, they sent the choppers in.
Had the firefight died down?
Oh, it was over with.
It was over.
Completely
They
over.
pulled out?
Yeah, the Cong pulled out.
Pulled out.
And the helicopter set down. They got us on the chopper, and then after that, I don't know exactly what happened, but they took us to, I don't remember the name of it.
Were you in pain and bleeding, or scared, or
When
shocked,
I was hit, I felt a very, very sharp pain in my left arm, and I felt a hot trickle down my arm, which was the blood, and then everything grew numb. So there wasn't that much pain involved in it, with the exception of the first impact of it. Like I said, it was a ricochet. I had my weapon. I was sitting with rice paddy, and I had my weapon over my heart. And if it had been a direct hit, I'd been dead. But it was a ricochet. The funny thing about it was, it landed. It stopped at the bone. And Rodriguez was in the position with me, and he took a pocket knife. And this sounds like out of the Old West, but he took a pocket knife and dug the bullet out of my arm because he wanted to put a bandage on it. Mm-hmm. And he threw the bullet down on the ground. I said, "Get that sucker, because I want it." And I do have it at home. He found it. But yeah, he dug it out, and like I said, then the choppers finally arrived and picked us up and flew us into the unit.
Were you bleeding a lot? Or?
It seemed like the bleeding stopped after there was muscle and tendon damage, which I later found out, but I can't recall. Well, after he put the compress on it, which is made to soak up a lot of blood. And like I said, there was so much going on because we didn't have time. I didn't have time, or the other guys that were wounded, with the exception of Marsh, didn't have time to worry about we were wounded, because we were worried about whether we were going to get out of this alive. And so we kept firing. We kept putting down the line of fire that we could, just to stay alive. And after they got us down to the hospital, which also Dave McCombs was transferred out of 9th Infantry Division and transferred down to where this hospital was at. and he was transferred. See, with the 9th Division being a division movement, that meant like there was, I don't know how many thousands of us over there at one time, and you rotated every year, so they couldn't rotate a division at one time, so they had to take a certain amount of the individuals and transfer them to other units and bring in other people from other units to keep the rotation to stay in balance. And Dave happened to be down where at this hospital, and one of the medics or something was in that tent that night, and they put the word out to Dave that I was in there. I'll never forget, he came through his doors like gangbusters. It was funny.
You never went into shock then? You're in the hospital and you've got a wound in your arm.
Oh, yeah, the thing that upset me more than anything about the wound upset my teeth. I mean, I kept telling me, the arm, not in the leg.
You're in the hospital and you've got a wound in your arm.
Oh, yeah, the thing that upset me more than anything about the wound upset my teeth. I mean, I kept telling me, the arm, not in the leg, the ankle, but they still about the call the play that they played out. They found out that they could have made another shrapnel or something you didn't realize. But, that was the first ground I was in my also seen. So, you know, thought that the boys saw nothing but the Vietnamese. And, that's enough. Another coincidence happened. When I first got in the 9th Infantry Division, there was 3 jollies, and all spelled J-O-L-L-Y. The first one was among the first we wounded. He was an engineer, and he was out on Bearcat on a bulldozing perimeter, and he got shot through the kneecap, and he automatically got sent back to the States. The second jolly was a Tim jolly from California, and he was in the bed directly across from me. He got wounded. And when they took me in for surgery, or took me in after they sewed my wound up, and we had a couple of days to play around that nose to that other guys. They came in and put me on the gurney, and they took me back to the operation. What's going on? We're going to use that piece of scrap metal from your butt. And I said, you're not going to use any scrap metal from my butt. And they said, your name is Darrell. And I said, yeah, but so is. And it was Tim. They were after this. He got shot in the butt. So, or he got a piece of scrap metal in the butt. So they put me back in my bed and went over to God. The funny thing happened. But it was funny to be able to meet the other guy. And the only other jolly was in the Infantry Division. After we left, they sent a bubble, which is a helicopter. We had glass dome, that took me back to Can Tree, that's where the second picture was based out of.
How long were you out?
Oh, just 7 days, 7 or 8 days. It was just a little over a week because they wouldn't let me take a shower and find the bag and wrap it around my arm and stuff. So they didn't want the stitches to get wet. I put plastic bag and take it from my arm so I didn't take a shower. There was times when we were out in the field. I remember one time we were out something like 48 days, having a shower. Everybody got shaken to that. No one knew it because our clothes actually almost rotten off of it. It's been that long since we were in the field at one time. But I got back to base camp and they put recon had gun jeeps. We traveled gun jeeps protected by convoys to bring us supplies in and out. And we wore after so long in the field and then transfer up on the gun jeep. I worked past the gun jeep for and after being wounded they put me back on the gun jeep. And I wasn't back 2 days. I was on the gun jeep and we had an attachment of infantry attached to it to guard us. And that night we were on here again. And 15 hours hospital, 2 days. I never forget crawling down to the hooch, and I was just in where everything was go through and trying to make sure everybody got out of the hooch, got back behind the sandbags, and then for us to get out to the bunkers that we had built to get back into the action that was going on to keep them from moving around. But there was another one of those things that lasted almost all night, and at that time I was inside a sandbag bunker, which I felt a lot safer than I did out in the open window. You just kept wondering, I'll go do it again. And after that was over with, we just all of us that were wounded. I forgot to mention that out of Montoya and Marsh, when we got Marsh down to the hospital, they automatically flew him to the main because there's only neurosurgeon being shot through the head. Only neurosurgeon in Vietnam was in the main, and Marsh did die, which is probably fortunate for Marsh because the back of his skull was saved enough of the vegetable. But they did inform us he did die, so we didn't worry anymore about it. And after that experience, they told us, the ones that were wounded, we had our choice of either transferring to a different outfit or staying with recon and Infantry Division. And we heard it's going to be pretty tough duty, so I did take the transfer. And Montoya, I believe, is the only one that did the other. And he took the transfer. I don't know what happened to him after that. But I got transferred to Zion, attached to the 716th NT Battalion as a security guard, and I led that team. I had air conditioned hotel room. I paid separate rations in this restaurant on the military restaurant set up inside them. And our purpose was to guard the officers and enlisted men, which did the work inside them, the bookkeepers and everything that kept infantrymen. Supposedly behind every infantryman is 7 other soldiers that keep him going, the paymaster, the supply clerk, I don't know exactly, but supposedly there's 7 men to keep one infantryman in action, do what he's supposed to do. Like I said, the last 5 months, I didn't even take an R&R because I didn't think the generals would be good as I did. And I found out generals were better. And I didn't see how they could look much better.
Which hotel were you in? Or?
Well, I moved around to different hotels. I was liking 3 different hotels, and it's in the scrapbook there. I don't remember the name. But the one that we stayed at was the only one that had M60 machine gun that guarded it, and it was especially because all the MP that protected Saigon lived in that one hotel. We worked 8 hours on, 8 hours off, and we were on call for that 8 hours. Then we had 8 hours to do what we wanted to do on our own time. It was primarily just like a job.
You never called in on that 8 hours you were out.
We did have practice with the through on every once in a while, keep you alert. We never
And what was your specific job? Did it change?
No, it's probably, they had, in front of the hotels, they had a concrete barrier built that you stood behind. And you carried, and the funny thing about that was, after I got transferred to this outfit, then I had to go out and requalify with the M14 rifle, which was supposedly a abandoned weapon. But here I am, a combat soldier, in combat, got the CIB, Purple Heart, and I had to go out and requalify with M14 to prove that I could shoot the M14 rifle with in Saigon, which I thought was very hilarious.
What did you do in your free time?
Oh, go down to the PX, spend a lot of time down at PX picking up odds and ends. We go to clubs, which primarily where we ate. They had entertainment. They had bands and things to come in and entertain. And we got to know the Australians. And, well, because everybody was involved in Vietnam was, like I said, Saigon was a base for all their bookkeeping and everything like that. So we had a group of all different professions of men there, and there was even civilians. I didn't bring up, but while I was down in the Delta, we were attached to 3 civilians that the United States paid, and I believe they were brought over there. They paid, I don't remember how long it was, but they did make $15,000 a year at that time. It was tax free for being in Vietnam, being a civilian, and the government supplied everything for them while they were there. So they made pretty doggone decent money at that time. We guarded them, and we were on the landing craft attached to the South Vietnamese Navy, and floated up and down the river, and we were in search of sand to make our base camp so we could rain and stuff in Mekong Delta. Because Mekong Delta was primarily where all the rice was grown for Vietnam. A lot of people don't realize that North Vietnam and South Vietnam should never be like Korea, where they flash a line and say, this is where it's over. I mean, the Viet Cong is going to be here, and the South Vietnamese is going to be here, because the South Vietnam supplies all the food to North Vietnam. Not like Korea, where they've got their own supply of food. South Korea was separated from South Vietnam was separated from North Vietnam. North Vietnam was starved to death, and that was primarily the big why it kept going as long as it did.
You never had any excitement while you were in entry for the last 5 months?
Not really anything that, no. I heard a gunshot once in a while. We carried whistles, and a whistle was like God. You blew the whistle once, and all Vietnamese stopped. If they didn't stop, the thing that followed was a bullet. They didn't stop. Because there wasn't any questions asked. You blew your whistle, and also there was a curfew that, I don't remember, it was 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and everything came to a standstill. There was nothing but MPs on the street.
I'm getting ahead of myself. ago. Now that you think about it, the war was being conducted. You can't count down everyone was living it.
Oh.
Everybody else was losing their ass out in the field.
Yeah, I absolutely cannot. Like I said, I didn't think generals lived like I did. Well, I really don't live in Wabash, Indiana. I don't have two ladies starching my clothes and spit shining my boots for me, and a barber shop that had a manicurist in it right below the hotel that I went to, and a nice little Chinese restaurant that I just walked right into anytime I wanted to. That's off the street was a tailor shop that handmade clothes for me. I'd go down to the PX and I bought a load of stereo equipment. You didn't have to pay taxes on it over there. I bought a 7-inch reel, they call it PX here in the States. We call it cheap over there. But here, or over there, I paid $450 for it. When I got back here, they left $1,500 on it. And same as that. But like I said, we didn't have to pay taxes on it over there.
Were there any apologies for this rear atmosphere? Or
No.
No one said, I want to get out there.
The ones that were there didn't realize what was going on. Most of them didn't realize what was going on. This outfit that this security guard outfit that I was transferred into, and there was other guys from my outfit from the recon that was transferred with me there. And we were tickled to death over it, but most of the other guys were just green right off the plane.
Yeah.
So they didn't have any idea what was going on. They thought this is the way everybody was over there for all they knew.
Yeah.
And of course, another funny instance is Tom Hurt, used to Kentucky, he's a great big strapping guy. He carried the M60 machine gun now recently. And we found out that we were supposed to salute officers inside that because we guarded a lot of officers buried in. We were supposed to salute them, but we had this one greenhorn, and Tom and I got word on it. And of course, World War II, and also in the field, officers do not want to be saluted because there's a sniper out there. He's out for lunch. They wanted him. And so we told this greenhorn lieutenant, 90-day wonder, we called him. So one night, Tom and I were guarding basically in the same area, and this lieutenant came up. We had Jeeps come around and give us tea or coffee to keep us awake, or because of the heat, and then also use bathroom facilities. And so both of us jumped up and whipped a big salute on him, and he hit the ground like, and both of us just died laughing because it was so funny. And this guy said, "Don't you ever do that again," because we thought he was going to have a heart attack. But we did have, and it was a pain, but we did have to, and we had rifles. We had used a rifle salute if we were guarding the officers' barracks. Also did have Marjorie was over there. I was guarding the hotel that she stayed at. She stopped and talked to me twice. It was nice for them at least think that she'd take time to stop and say something to just John Doe on the street.
Well, your time is coming to an end in Vietnam, and what transpires now?
Well, they told me if I wanted to stay over another 3 months, that they'd give me an early out. I only had 6 months left. And I told them that I'd been shot once, and I had the bullet that had my name on it. I didn't think I was going to try for the second one. So I got my orders, and we flew back, which was a 21-hour flight, which is kind of funny because it's 21 days on the ship. And also I didn't mention that when the ship left Oakland, when it was 1 foot off the shore, we were considered in Vietnam, so we got 21 days off our tour of duty. And I wanted to come back by ship, but they wouldn't let us, because I figured that'd be another 21 days off. But we did fly back, and my orders were for Fort Meade, Maryland, which rumor had it at that time we did a lot of Fort Meade, Maryland, was primarily for Washington, D.C., which I later found out that it wasn't. I came home on a 30-day leave, and came home Right, it was 1st of December, last November, something like that. When I came home. And another funny thing that happened was landed in Oakland, California, and I already bought my ticket to Vietnam for Indianapolis from Oakland because there again you didn't have to pay taxes. It was costing $78 for my ticket. If I bought it in the state, it was probably $204 or something like that. But we had to go through the regular red tape. We had, and we were in Oakland. We had to go across the San Francisco Bridge, which I also got to see from underneath. The Golden Gate. Yeah, the Golden Gate. We went under it. Went by Alcatraz, and we were going over, which I got to see real quick. But they had a bus that take us over there. We take taxis, and there's taxis all over the place. They charge us $25 for whack just to drive across the bridge and drop across the airport. And most of us didn't care $25. So I got in the airport, and I said, "When's the next flight for Indianapolis?" And the guy said, "There it goes." And right out the road, it just left the landing strip. But I got home and visited a relation and everything he did, and which every time he did, he came home. Got to Fort Meade, Maryland, and there I was in the cavalry there. And really, they didn't have much to do with us. We had 6 months left. They couldn't keep us in. We were all combat seasoned vets. So most of the time, we just sat around and shined our shoes and stuff, and it was kind of a waste. With the exception of in April, the guy decided to kill Martin Luther King. And Washington, D.C. kind of went bananas. The blacks in Washington decided to burn and loot everything they could possibly get their hands on. So we did go through this riot control training while we were at Fort Meade. And consequently, we were shoved down on the streets of Washington, D.C. for 14 days. We got to sleep approximately 1 hour a night after we shaved. We stayed in the gymnasium, slept on the floor. And all the other time we spent right on the streets of Washington, D.C., making sure that the blacks, after the police force could not, and the National Guard could not control them, they brought in federal troops and we took care of the situation. And the only person that used common sense in that was Mayor Daley in Chicago. Said shoot on sight, and Chicago didn't have any problems. That's what the rest of them should. It was ridiculous. Most of us guys would rather been back in Vietnam fighting.
What was your job? What was your mission in Washington? Were you traveling in pairs or singly?
Oh no, we traveled in our platoons, in our groups. Yeah, we brought in our tear gas and things like that. When we first moved in, they brought us in truckloads, and we just unloaded off the trucks and started throwing. They had a grenade called a baseball. You could throw it and make a hit. You could hit a person with it. It was made out of plastic and it break. And there was a dust in it that was absolutely miserable. Of course, tear gas was miserable too. And we had our gas and stuff. And like I said, within a day we had, or it wasn't even a day, within hours we had it controlled. But we just had to stay there to keep it controlled.
And 14 days of that then?
Yeah.
Field kitchen again?
14 days of that, and then back to Fort Meade, and we just sit around and waited to be mustered out. It wasn't too long after I was out, they decided with guys that had less than 6 months, they maybe thought we should muster out instead of keeping around using a taxpayer job.
Let me ask you some questions. Did you figure your training was adequate for you?
We were, yes, in our case it was. We were, like I said, we went into advanced combat training right after basic training, where a lot of there's 2 other things, and I don't know exactly what they were underneath there, but there was 2 other degrees of training that we were supposed to go through. But they told us, they said, hey, in 6 months, if you're going to be in Vietnam, there's no doubt about it, you're going to be there.
Now, so you say it was more than adequate.
Well, it wasn't more than adequate, but it was adequate. We went through the training. We went through they had the John Wayne movie of the Green Beret. There was one part in it where they went through before leaving for Vietnam, they went through a Vietnamese village for training, and we did that. And that gave you an idea of what you're going to get into. Also, another thing that helped out an awful lot was we came home on leave before leaving for that. Phil Wood was in Wabash. His wound was less than a month before he was over to Dayton. So him and I went camping up on the Eel River, and this was in November. It was cold, but we went up there and sat down and discussed Vietnam, and Phil gave us some insight of what we were getting into. So it kind of relieved us a little bit to let us know where we weren't walking into it cold.
Were you conscious of the protest movement at all?
Basically not. We read a little bit about it in armed forces. They're in the Stars and Stripes, but no, I basically didn't realize what was going on back here, and I've never so disgusted my whole life as when I was landing in Oakland, California, and see these hippies walking around with ungodly long hair, stunk, barefooted. They're just disgusting. And of course, we were aware of we were stationed, like I said, at Fort Riley, Kansas, 9th Infantry Division, and in Manhattan, Kansas, is Kansas State University. And we'd go into Manhattan down to a couple of bars and stuff, and the college kids would have absolutely nothing to do. They didn't want to talk to us, and of course our hair was short, so they knew who we were. But we didn't. We just figured, college kids felt they were a little better than us. We didn't realize it. I don't think at any time. Even in high school and stuff, I didn't understand what Vietnam was what was going on in Vietnam until we got there.
Okay, let me ask you another question. What was the relationship, your own personal relationship, or any relationship with the black people? Luckily,
I'm going to say that. I don't think just black here this a lot, not some good all over the house and boys. But
I got it.
Luckily, we only had 2 or 3 in our outfit, and the ones that were in our outfit were primarily on the guns, and they weren't out in the field with it. Like I said, we worked on a small scale. Well, you're talking about 25 guys, and primarily we were basically all white. So overseas, we didn't have any problems at all. And when I got back to the States, I was Fort Meade, Maryland. And Fort Riley, we didn't have any problems. But Fort Meade, when they were alone, wonderful guys. Had a good time with them. One guy and I from Alabama, I believe it was, we go down and do our work on the weekend. Because I didn't have quartermaster. I had my car out there. I did my quartermaster be in the place that really came up missing clothes. And he asked me if he'd go along, and I said, sure. You could shop him first, and then he found out I was from Wabash, and in small base Indiana, I never realized if it was black or white or purple or whatever you were, you were a human being. But when I got back to Fort Meade, Maryland, and they got starting to cluster together, I got to dislike them quite a bit. They go out at night, a dozen of them or so, and they get on cheap wine and get drunk, and then come back in at 2 o'clock in the morning and play the Motown music and keep all us awake. Luckily, I got transferred out of the one end of the barracks where there was like 200 of us stuck together, and I got transferred into where 4 of us stuck together. So it's primarily overseas, and that's from the reactions that I saw with a few of them. I'm glad we didn't have them out to combat with. And we did have one guy that transferred from Korea in with us, and he was wounded on an eagle flight. He wasn't there very long, but he was a good guy. But there again, he was the only black amongst And it was funny because the first night he was out, he was catching. Usually when they brought him, and I don't know why, usually if they brought in a new guy, they'd pick him out on ambush patrol with me. And I always loved it because I knew I was going to get a full night's sleep. Because those guys didn't sleep. They were scared to death. I could sleep all night, and they were going to stay awake all night. And he was a pretty good guy. But he got hit on the first Eagle flight that he went out on, and he went back to the States after that.
How about drugs? Not you personally.
Well,
overall.
I'm going to tell this exactly like I tell it right now. I don't use drugs here in the United States. I didn't need it in Vietnam, and I don't use them. I get in no trouble on my alcohol in this country. So, any of this other stuff, I've never tried it, and I swear to God, I haven't. I don't want to. Fortunately, there again, my father, when I was about in 6th grade or something, there was a show on television that they showed people that were coming down off of drugs, and he made me sit there instead of being outside playing, watching it, and it left a hell of an impression on my mind. These people are coming out of these DCs and stuff, and I just never cared anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
When we first got over there, we knew nothing about it at all. After we were there for a while, we had problems with the South Vietnamese soldiers again, because they'd get out in bunkers and stuff in front of us in position. They'd get high on something and they'd turn around and fire right into it. So we had problems there. We did have one or two guys that got into it, and it was marijuana. I never knew of any of the hardcore stuff. They got marijuana. And the marijuana, I've smelled marijuana here in the States, and I smelled marijuana over there, and it's two different worlds. Of course, the guys that I've talked to that used it said it was a lot stronger marijuana over there with around here. But a couple of guys, when they got up in the morning, if they didn't smoke a pipe full of marijuana, they just couldn't make it through the day. We did have one guy in our outfit from Ohio that had an alcohol problem. And one night he almost got killed because we went on an ambush patrol, and for every one step forward he was taking two backwards, and he came into the front perimeter after we'd already set up, and somebody wouldn't recognize.
Okay, he got transferred to Saigon.
He got transferred to Saigon with us and became the battalion commander's driver, which was funny because he dropped the colonel off someplace at the meeting, and then he'd shoot down to the bar and get a couple of shooters, and he was driving around Saigon with this head honcho drunk most of the time. And I don't think the guy ever knew when we were there, because I don't think he ever saw him sober.
Well, that's part of the game, I
Yeah.
guess. How about Agent Orange?
Totally unaware of it until we got back here, what was going on. I don't recall of ever seeing him spray it. I did, and I've got pictures of it. At Tan True, our base camp, I was qualified with a flamethrower here in the United States. We didn't use a flamethrower over in Vietnam because it contained napalm, and all you need to do is just have a bullet hit that little tank, and you're disintegrated instantly. So we didn't, but we used it. We'd fill those things up with what we were told was gasoline and diesel fuel, and sprayed the perimeter with it to kill the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they told us and what we used might be two different stories, but I don't know. It possibly could have been what they told us it was.
Are you active in any veterans organizations at all?
I belonged to the American Legion for 17 years.
For any particular reason?
Well, because the rest of the guys joined, and I do enjoy the Legion. I belong there in the Elks Club, now at the VFW, and I don't spend near as much time as I used to, but I still, at least once a week, go down to the Legion.
Have you been to the memorial in Washington?
No.
Would you like to go?
Yeah, I think I would, but it'd have to be on my own terms because I wouldn't mind seeing Marshall's name up there.
I think it would be nice. I was just reading about it last night, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful
Yeah.
monument.
Yeah, it's at first I didn't. Matter of fact, amongst the two of them, at first I preferred the three soldiers.
Mhm.
But now that you get into where the names and the dates and things are on there, it means a little more to the individual this way.
Well, what do you think, really? Looking back, what are your impressions and thoughts and so forth?
Well, I think that we'd have won the Vietnam War within a month, easy, if they'd let us fight the compounded war instead of the bureaucrats trying to run it for us. When I got over there, the first thing they told us was we could not shoot until we were shot at. The first thing I said, in other words, we cannot die, or we cannot kill until we're dead. And that's what it amounted to. Of course, after we were over there for a while, and things changed a little bit. But it was strictly a political war. And the guys that Tom Eric and Phil Woodward, the guys from here in Wabash, we'd have all went back within a couple if they'd let us done what we were supposed to have done. But it just wasn't fought right.
You know that the Vietnamese are saying, the ones in power are saying, you're going to see it on television and so forth, because it's the 10th anniversary on April 30th for the fall of Saigon. It's been 10 years. That they're saying is that I think maybe you should come over here and give us some reparations and help us out. After all, you came over here to blow us up. Now come on over and help us out. What are your feelings about that?
Ain't no way.
No
way at all. Matter of fact, I think it's silly for us bringing all these Vietnamese into this country. I do not agree with it. Matter of fact, I don't agree with bringing in a bunch of these people in this country. We're getting into a population problem as it is. But we definitely do not need to bring in the Vietnamese. And they got everything we left over there. They got more than what the. And as far as these children that were left over there, that happens in every war. And this stuff, thinking we owe them something, that's a bunch of baloney too. This is a ship going.
As your troop ship, What rank were you when you got out?
I got out as Spec 4, Specialist 4th class. Being a division movement, when we went over there, most of our ranks were frozen, and you couldn't. When there's that many guys, you just can't go anywhere.
Have you had a hard time adjusting to civilian life, really?
Oh, not really. I had Mike Taylor and I in 1980 went down to Florida for a week, and I watched the movie Apocalypse Now, and it threw some flashbacks.
Good movie.
Yeah, it brought back some memories that I didn't want. And
it's an excellent movie.
I don't want to ever see it again. I wish I wouldn't have saw it the first time. But the other movies I've seen on Vietnam have not bothered me that much. I think probably because this is the first one.
You'd laugh because on the way to Fort Wayne Sunday, someone had obviously hired a Vietnamese Asiatic to cut their grass. And on 24th, perhaps you've seen it. But they were out in the gray coat, with the black pants and the split-toe shoe, and they had the hat on.
I don't think I'd recommend that.
And I thought, my gosh, this is really strange seeing a Vietnamese with the hat. The hat that I'm talking about.
Yeah, the straw.
Yeah, but there they were cutting the grass for somebody. Sylvania. Do you think we're better off for having been to Vietnam or not, really?
Yeah, I can't actually say that. I think we accomplished a whole lot there. We lost a hell of a lot of lives.
50,000. 54,000.
A lot of young men, a lot of good friends that My friends right here in Wabash, Indiana. Danny Fullwater, Randy Pell.
They were in your class at high school?
Randy Pell was. Danny Fullwater and I worked together out at Marshall's, very good friends. Bill Knox. I never have got to confirm on that, but I believe I heard that he was amongst them.
Well, I think it's your scrapbook is terrific.
I've got more than that, some slides and stuff. I kept an awful lot of. I've got the map of where I was shot at, the map that I carried with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. In recon, we were trained to read compasses and coordinates and everything like that. That was another part of my training. Now I've got 2 or 3 boxes of stuff at home that's sitting there collecting dust. I haven't dug out. When Steve Jones interviewed me for the Marion paper, I dug out a bunch of it, and they went through and, well, as a matter of fact, on the paper, the front page was one of my pictures. There was a slide of it and also a photograph of it, because I did convert most of my photographs into slides. And at that time, Orville Butts had Central Cut right here in Wabash. And through McJohn's out of Fort Wayne, they set up a deal where all my film was free. And they developed for the development price, and which was nice. Also, they sent me an envelope that I sent directly to McJohn's, and McJohn's sent it right down to Central Cut Rate, and then Orville made sure that Mom and Dad got it. And then a few of them, Mom and Dad sent them back over to me, and then I'd list what was going on, which is a good thing I did, because, my Lord, I can't even remember some of the guys' names anymore. But then I shipped them back, so we kept pretty accurate records. I've got newspapers from Saigon, kept some stars and stripes. Well, matter of fact, Dad even kept his stars and stripes from World War II, when the war ended. We got those home, and I tried to keep some stuff. Dad, like I said, Dad tried to tell me, get out, instead of catting around stuff, get out and take some pictures, enjoy the country, and forget about what's going on. See what's there, because it's a free ride.
Yeah. That's your last trip, too. You're not going back.
No. Although I wouldn't mind going back to Saigon and seeing Saigon again.
Well, I hope you're in front of the TV Thursday night.
Yeah, more than likely I will.
It's going to be the whole thing. It's Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
CBS went back, and I think it should be.
Although I believe it's a senator that went in that room where he was a POW at, where they tortured him. I don't think I could have handled that. Yeah. I think I'd have. Probably a good thing he didn't have a weapon with him. He might have been blowing somebody away.
Well, Darrell, I want to thank you for taking your time tonight and to allowing me to interview you for the Wabash Carnegie Public Library.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are missed, but you can't cover 2 years in a short period of time. I feel bad. This is the only war that the United States has ever lost. And I think that left an impression on all, because we're just not used to that kind of humiliation. Yeah. And that's what it is.
Well, what kind of reaction did you get when you talked to the service folks?
Oh, very, very favorable. They are all ticked with that. That I was wanting to, and at that time, and I still think so. We got to stop communism someplace. It's going to take over if we don't. And Vietnam was like Korea. It was one of the, but it didn't work out. But there again, there was too many people up there in Worston pulling the plugs on things that should have let us alone.
Are you in a rush to get home?
No.
Okay. Can I buy you a beer?
Yep.
Tell me about your sleeping hounds that you acquired in Vietnam.
Well, because we were out on ambush patrols so many times where we slept basically 3 hours on and 6 hours off. Of course, you're supposed to try to sleep during the day, but it got so ungodly hot over there during the day, I just couldn't sleep. Consequently, basically, I sleep primarily 3 hours at a time in intervals, or maybe less than that. And there is times that I'll sleep. I'll get in maybe an 8-hour sleep, but it doesn't happen very often.
But you go to bed 7 o'clock in the evening, really?
Oh yeah, I go home and drink a few beers after I get off work, eat, go and turn on television. I fall asleep, and I'll be asleep till maybe 10:30. I'll wake up, stay awake till maybe 3, fall back asleep for a couple hours, get up 5:30, 4:30, get up, get ready to go to work.
Yeah.
Go to
But
work
you've
at
done that
7.
ever since Vietnam?
No, well, when I was bartending, I didn't, but it's because I was on night shift so much on it.
Yeah.
And when you first came back, you're so much more relaxed because you're so glad to get back and get away from, like I said, that you once in a while you wake up and kind of remember things that you don't want to remember, and kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm afraid to stay asleep too long. Maybe I'll have a dream that I don't want to have.
Have you ever been to a veterans hospital?
Oh no,
Nothing
no.
like that.
I am being disabled vet. I've got a card that I carry that you walk in and you're taken care of right away. But it's stuff that it's just like my nerves. I've got nervous condition. Like I told Dr. Lyons, I got nerves of gazelle.
Yeah.
I just can't stay calm for very long periods of time. I get up and pace. I can't stand to be in a doctor's office. Of course, being around sick people, I think that's good. But I usually stand by the door or something. I don't like it.
You know that you and I have sat here for an hour and a half and we haven't moved?
Well, you went to the restroom and I got up and stretched out a little bit.
Oh, you stretched out. Okay. Let me